Well, g'day everyone. Today I wanted to talk to you about something I've been discussing with all of my live subscribers when I go on live. And I've actually been saying that I really do believe that for me personally, the A7S III is probably the best wedding camera I've ever had. And let me discuss that with you because I wanted to talk about, there is going to be some people that sort of totally disagree with this, but it totally depends on how you shoot and what you are shooting. And I'll discuss that when I sort of sum up near the end. But what I wanted to do is sort of talk to you about how I've been using this camera in weddings. And I will be using it in dance shoots and things like that once they all get back up and running due to us being in lockdown. But I wanted to sort of discuss how beautiful the images are coming off this and really how it's changed the way that I shoot. So I thought I'd discuss that with you all today. So I thought what we could do at the beginning is just start by looking at the body, and I'll sort of explain what I like about that. So let me switch over. So the body itself I think is terrific. Look, if you've got the A1 or the new A7R4 type cameras, the body is basically the same as those. But I love the controls. The controls are so nice to actually get into. The main thing that I adore about this camera is the articulating screen. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say that you don't like articulating screens at all, and that's fine. It really is really up to you what you'd like to use. It gives me the ability to sort of work down extremely low and then turn it around and put the camera up extremely high as well. And particularly with brides, I do love to shoot down very, very low, and I'll show one of those as we're talking now. And I think that gives a really beautiful look. It's quite a sort of high fashion look. The controls are very, very easy access. This does have a cage from SmallRig on it though, but you know, it's just great. The battery grip is terrific to hold on to. I really like that. And if you look on the back, I can just show you the articulating screen here, how it will move around. So that's terrific. The buttons themselves are very nice. They're sort of raised up lovely, and the weather sealing is much better on this camera than what the previous Sony cameras had. The door for your cards is nice the way that they work now. Let me just open this up. And you can see the CF Express cards inside here. I love the fact that you can use CF Express and also your standard SD cards in this, and that's a really great feature. So overall, I think the body is terrific and I really like using it now. Now, I have come from using an A9, and until I started using this as my main camera, I was using an A9, and I still love that camera dearly, and in fact, I'll probably upgrade to, say, maybe the A1, or if there's an A9 III coming out in the future. But I think at the moment, if I was buying another camera right at this point, I would buy another A7S III. Now, let me show you, because I know the first thing that people are going to say is, you can't print big with a 12 megapixel file size. Well, let me just show you what I printed. Now, this was done when I was shooting Nikon, and this was done with the D4, which is a 12 megapixel camera. So this image was shot with a D4. Now it's a 20 by 30, it's a fraction larger than that actually, and it looks gorgeous. The bride that purchased one of these as well was unbelievably happy with how this looked. So yeah, I mean, I think it's wonderful, and I very rarely will go larger than this. Now, I came from a background of shooting 12 megapixel file sizes when I went from, I used to shoot Nikon and I used to use the D700, which is a legendary camera. And then I went up to the D3S, the D4, and then the D4S. I think the D4S was 16 megapixels. And I've really worked with that my whole working life, sort of as a wedding photographer. So, you know, I'm used to using that file size. And it's particularly important to understand now that most brides, probably 90% of my brides now, very rarely buy prints, unfortunately. And like I said, if they did want to purchase a print, I can easily go to 20 by 30, as I just showed you then. The thing that you can't do with the camera is you can't crop in a lot. And this is the thing that you have to understand about how you're shooting with something that is a 12 megapixel file size. If you're shooting wildlife, sports, where you might need that range, or you do crop in post a lot, then obviously a 12 megapixel camera is not for you. I tend to work quite slowly, and what I mean by that is I'll make sure that what I've got is correct in camera, and often I won't crop at all. I try to actually do that because it saves so much time in post-processing later on. So there's some of the things that you've got to sort of consider. I very rarely crop, so the 12 megapixels is ample for me. Another thing too that is beautiful about using this camera is that the file sizes are so small, which makes it very, very manageable when you're dealing with things like Final Cut or Lightroom. And that's a massive difference. If you try and open up very large files, not only does it take huge amounts of storage, and I was constantly borrowing storage even when I used my A9, but having that ability to, use lower resolution is great for your storage requirements. And it's particularly easy to, say, import into Lightroom or Capture One and then cull the images when you get them in there. So that's another really important thing as well. The focus on the A7S III is wonderful. It really is. I mean, I never ever have to worry about that. When I'm doing weddings, I just put it on center focus and then face detection will take over, or tracking will take over. The tracking is superb in this camera. It really is top notch. And I'd say it's probably equal with my A9. And that's saying a big thing because I love it. And in fact, I just don't miss shots. Low light is wonderful as well, as long as you don't underexpose. Remember, that's like that with any camera. When you're dealing with high ISO, it's critical not to underexpose. You're actually better off to overexpose a fraction and then bring it down in post, as long as you don't blow out the highlights. So I just adore this. I think the body's great. The EVF is just unbelievable. Now, here in Australia, it's very, very bright. And we know the screens on the back of the Sonys can tend to be not that good if you're looking at them, say, compared to what Canon have and Nikon have, etc., even Panasonic. I think they've improved that, and hopefully I'll get to look at one of the newer screens very, very soon. But that certainly was a needed update. But even so, it's so bright here in Australia that I use the EVF constantly. And I use that for framing. I use it for getting critical focus, particularly when I'm doing video. I'm not talking about video in this situation, though. I'm just talking about using this camera for stills. And like I said, I just think it's absolutely amazing. And in fact, I'd just buy another one. Let me know what you think about all of this. Like I said, 12 megapixels is not for everyone. And I do want to definitely say that I'm talking about it from my perspective. And 12 megapixels is ample for me. In fact, most brides just want to share their images online. And that's the thing now. Online has become a massive thing. And 12 megapixels is actually overkill if you're dealing with online work. And that's something that you have to sort of consider there as well. It also gives you a great ability to do fusion because the file sizes that you're getting in there are ample for, say, doing something like 4K. And that's where I often do that. I'll do fusion shooting the camera for video and stills exactly at the same time. Like I said before, if you are a wildlife photographer or you're actually shooting sports and things like that, or you crop in camera, then obviously this camera is not for you. But I think personally at this stage, I think this is the best wedding camera that I've ever had. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Apart from that, guys, please subscribe and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.